The wind drifts gently across a landscape of half-buried stones, their edges softened by centuries of silence. In the hush of twilight, where the air hums faintly with the weight of time, the ruins begin to breathe again. They are neither entirely dead nor truly alive, just caught somewhere in between, like a dream that refuses to end. Each stone carries the echo of a vanished voice, each pillar once lifted in devotion, now leaning under the patience of the earth. The desert sand, the moss on forgotten steps, the quiet hum beneath the ground, they all tell the same secret story, one written not in ink or paint, but in stillness. Long before we measured time in years or charted it in history books, people built places meant to last forever. Temples rose from clay, from limestone, from volcanic rock. They faced the rising sun, mirrored the constellations above, and sang hymns to gods we no longer name. But for all their grandeur, what survived was not their gold or their rituals. It was their bones, the raw skeletons of belief left to sleep under open skies. As night gathers around their broken silhouettes, the air seems to whisper, what else remains, hidden just beneath the surface? If you close your eyes and listen, you might almost hear it, the low, endless murmur of the earth remembering. Beneath every ruin, beneath every cracked floor and collapsed arch, lie chambers sealed in silence. Dust has piled over doorways. Roots have drawn patterns where once there were carvings. The deeper one looks, the more one realizes that temples are not merely built upward toward heaven, but downward into the waiting dark. They are both monuments and burials. Above ground, humanity sought the divine. Below it buried its fears, its hopes, its dead. There's a kind of still reverence in this paradox. The grand facades we marvel at were always just half the story, the visible half. The other half sleeps underneath, in tunnels that the sun never reaches, in crypts that once echoed with secret chants. Archaeologists dig carefully now, brushing centuries away grain by grain, unearthing fragments of ritual objects, forgotten stairways, walls carved with strange symbols. Every discovery deepens the mystery instead of solving it. For each door opened, two more remain sealed. It is as if the earth guards its own sacred silence, allowing only glimpses of what once was. Across the world, from the jungles of Cambodia to the sands of Egypt, from the mountains of Peru to the quiet plains of Anatolia, this story repeats itself in different languages, different stones, yet always the same pattern: rise, glory, decay, and sleep. Each civilization believed its faith eternal. Each left behind a whisper that has outlived every king, every empire, every worshiper. What we now call ruins were once the beating hearts of worlds. And perhaps, in a sense, they still are. To walk among them is to walk inside a memory that has forgotten its own beginning. The night sky stretches above these forgotten sanctuaries, the stars looking down like watchful eyes. Somewhere far below, deeper than the reach of light, there are chambers untouched by time. What rests there, relics, bones, dreams, remains uncertain. Some say the ancients buried their gods themselves, sealing divinity away when humanity grew too proud to listen. Others believe that what sleeps below is not divine at all, but human, a memory of what we once were before we began to build. Either way, something waits. As you listen, let your thoughts drift downward too, through the soil and the stone, past the roots and the remnants of walls. Imagine the air growing cooler, the light dimming, the noise of the surface fading into a deep, rhythmic quiet. This is where our journey begins, not in the ruins that tourists see, but in the hidden veins beneath them. Every civilization leaves behind an echo, and every echo eventually sinks into silence. It is within that silence that the real secrets are kept. The stones do not speak, but they remember. The earth does not answer, but it hums with the weight of all that has been buried in it: belief, loss, wonder. As the camera of the mind drifts lower, the dust shimmers in thin beams of light, swirling like a slow-moving galaxy. Somewhere in the dark, water drips against old rock, marking time in its most patient form. Above, the stars keep their distance. Below, history sleeps. And so begins our descent into the whispers beneath the stones, into the quiet heart of ancient temples and forgotten ruins. We are not here to disturb their rest, but to listen, to follow the faint pulse that still lingers where once the sacred met the soil. The deeper we go, the clearer it becomes that the past has not vanished. It has simply turned inward, folded itself into the earth, and waits, softly breathing beneath our feet. Before there were cities or empires, before even the first words were carved in clay, humanity began shaping stone into patterns that reached towards something greater than survival. In the quiet valleys of prehistory, men and women lifted slabs heavier than themselves, aligning them with the rising of the sun, the solstice moon, the slow arc of constellations. These were not shelters from rain or wind. They were expressions of reverence, built for reasons both spiritual and unknowable. The first temples were born not from wealth or conquest, but from wonder. Each carved surface was a question to the heavens, each circle of stones a dialogue between earth and sky. At Malta's ancient hypogym, a labyrinth cut into limestone thousands of years before the pyramids, the air still hums with a strange, low resonance. Its chambers twist downward like veins through the body of the island, their walls stained with red ochre spirals that echo eternity. Archaeologists say these markings represented life and death, the endless cycle of return. Yet standing there, surrounded by silence, so deep it feels alive, one senses something older than interpretation, a deliberate connection between the human voice and the stone itself. Sound carries through the tunnels in perfect harmony, as though the entire place were designed to breathe and sing. Far to the east, buried under layers of soil and centuries, lies Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, a temple so ancient it predates pottery, writing, and even agriculture. Its pillars rise in circles, each carved with animals that never lived in that region, with hands that seem too graceful for stone. For decades, scholars debated its purpose. Was it a sanctuary for hunters? A monument to gods of fertility? Or perhaps a place where the first stories of creation were spoken aloud? What is known is that the people who built it later covered it intentionally with earth, sealing their own work as if to hide it from time itself. In that gesture, one can almost hear the heartbeat of humanity's first mystery: to build, to worship, and then to bury. The roots of sacred architecture begin here, in that balance between creation and concealment. Every civilization that followed would echo this instinct, to construct not merely upward, but downward, to shape stone into vessels of meaning, and then allow the earth to reclaim them. The temples of the Neolithic age were not cold or empty. They pulsed with human presence, drums, chants, firelight flickering across carved walls. To the people who gathered there, the stones were alive, their weight holding spirit, memory, and sky together. The architecture of those first sacred spaces was less about walls and more about alignment, an effort to bring human rhythm in tune with the cosmic one. Even now, when you stand among those ruins, there's a feeling that something waits beneath your feet. Beneath the surface stones lie older foundations, and beneath those, layers of bone, ash, and offerings, gifts to ancestors or gods long forgotten. Archaeologists uncover small figurines, fragments of polished obsidian, bowls that once held sacred oil. Each object, once functional, now glows faintly with the aura of purpose. These were the tools of a relationship between humanity and the unseen, a conversation that spanned generations. The language of temples is geometry. Circles, squares, and spirals appear again and again, across continents, across millennia. They mirror the cycles of the heavens, the orbit of stars, the beating of the human heart. In Malta, the hypogym's chambers align with celestial events, just as Göbekli Tepe's pillars point to specific constellations. Such precision, could not have been coincidence. It was as though early builders were mapping eternity with stone, trying to translate the vastness of the sky into something they could touch. In that act lies the first fusion of science and faith, a way of seeing the divine in measurement, of finding order in mystery. What we know now comes from fragments, from cautious excavations and half-deciphered symbols. But what we do not know, what we can only sense, is the emotional life of these builders. Did they understand themselves as creators or servants? Were they afraid as they dug into the earth? Or did they feel comfort in the darkness below? The hypogeum was both tomb and temple, both womb and grave. Life and death were not opposites then, but reflections of the same eternal process. To descend into the earth was to enter the realm of beginnings as much as endings. Over time, these early structures became templates for civilizations that followed. The Egyptians would echo their alignments, the Greeks their proportions, the Mayans their cosmic intent. But in the beginning, there was only stone and sky, human breath and heartbeat. The builders of Göbekli Tepe and Malta did not need scripture. Their theology was written in architecture. They built to remember and to be remembered. And when their work was complete, they covered it, trusting the soil to preserve what language could not. Imagine standing there as the sun rises for the first time over a newly completed circle of stones. Shadows fall in perfect balance, tracing patterns across carved surfaces. A hush settles over the builders. They step back, aware that they have aligned something invisible, perhaps the soul itself, with the cosmos. In that moment, faith was not doctrine but geometry. Worship was not spoken but built. And from that foundation, every temple in the world would grow. The earth, patient and endless, became the first sanctuary. Humanity carved into it, shaping meaning from its depth. What remains now are the bones of that conversation, stones humming faintly in the wind, carvings worn to near invisibility. Yet beneath every ruin, there still lies a pulse. The early architects of spirit left their message buried within the ground itself, that to seek the divine, one must look not only upward, but inward and beneath. For all temples, no matter how high they reach, begin in the same place, the quiet heart of the earth, where silence first learned to speak. In the heart of Egypt, where the desert meets the slow and ancient breath of the Nile, stand the remains of temples that once shimmered like fire beneath the sun. They were built for eternity, carved from sandstone and limestone, their walls thick with the scent of incense and the echoes of chants that once rose like smoke into the blue air. These temples were not just monuments to gods. They were instruments of harmony, precision-crafted symphonies of light and shadow. Yet even here, beneath all the grandeur of columns and hieroglyphs, something else lingers. Beneath the polished stone floors and beneath the drifting sands, there are whispers of chambers, tunnels, and doorways leading to the unseen world below. When the day ends in Dendera, the colors shift slowly from gold to violet, and the walls of the Temple of Hathor begin to glow softly with the residue of sunlight. Hathor, goddess of love, joy, and the celestial womb, was worshipped as the mother of the heavens. Within her temple, high reliefs depict her face repeated again and again, serene, smiling, immortal. But the real intrigue lies below. Deep under the main sanctuary, there is a network of crypts so narrow that only one person can pass through at a time. Carvings within them depict strange devices, lotus-shaped objects with serpentine forms that some have speculated represent light, electricity, or rebirth. Archaeologists see in them a sacred symbolism, others a riddle of lost knowledge. Whether myth or misunderstood science, the mystery remains undisturbed, breathing quietly in the dark. Further south, in Abydos, the Temple of Seti stands as a gateway between history and myth. Here, the pharaohs sought to connect themselves with Osiris, the god of resurrection, the lord of the afterlife. Every wall is covered in hieroglyphs that read like hymns, prayers carved for eternity. Yet beneath those walls, beneath even the stone causeways that lead to the temple, lies something older. Hidden chambers, sealed corridors, and what some believe to be a labyrinth predating the temple itself. Ancient records speak of a hall of records, a mythical repository of the world's lost wisdom, buried somewhere beneath Abydos. Scholars call it legend, but radar scans have shown irregular voids below the temple, shapes too geometric to be natural. Excavation is forbidden now, leaving those secrets to sleep a little longer beneath the desert's quiet weight. Further west, the sands cover temples swallowed by time and flood. Near modern Aswan, on the edge of Lake Nasser, the temples of Abu Simbel were once in danger of disappearing beneath the rising waters of the dam. To save them, entire mountains were cut apart and rebuilt stone by stone. But even in their reconstruction, traces of ancient intent remained. Beneath their relocated bases, archaeologists discovered foundation deposits, small ritual offerings placed before the first block was ever laid. Tiny clay tablets, miniature tools, and charms meant to consecrate the act of creation. In these offerings, we sense a belief that to build sacred space was itself an act of devotion, one that tied heaven, earth, and the underworld together. The Egyptians understood architecture as both symbol and spell. Every wall, every corridor, every shaft was constructed according to cosmic law. The ceiling of Dendera's temple was a star map. The columns of Karnak mirrored papyrus stems reaching toward the light. And yet, always, there was a descent. Beneath every temple of the gods lay a hidden chamber for the dead, a passageway where only priests dared walk. These were not mere storerooms. They were conduits between worlds. The temple above was the face of eternity. The rooms below, its heartbeat. When archaeologists first discovered these lower chambers, they found them almost perfectly preserved. Air thick with dust that had not been disturbed in thousands of years. Tools left in place, seals unbroken. Some rooms were empty except for offerings of oil and grain, left as sustenance for souls on their eternal journey. Others contained carvings that no one had ever seen, delicate lines tracing constellations long since forgotten. One could almost imagine the priests descending by torchlight, carrying incense, whispering invocations that echoed along the cold stone. Their footsteps would fade as they vanished into the earth, their voices rising to mingle with the heartbeat of the desert above. Even now, Egypt continues to reveal its hidden layers. In Saqqara, beneath the sands near the Step Pyramid, excavations have uncovered a web of passageways extending far deeper than anyone imagined. Wooden coffins, brightly painted despite their age, rest side by side in chambers filled with statues of gods. The air there is heavy and warm, as if the dead themselves were breathing. Scientists use drones and radar to map what they cannot safely enter, discovering tunnels that lead nowhere and chambers sealed without visible entrances. Some suspect entire sanctuaries lie beneath these temples, buried intentionally to keep sacred knowledge untouched. In a land where death was considered transformation rather than ending, such concealment makes sense. To hide a truth was to preserve its power. The desert around these ruins is not silent. When the wind moves, it carries the hiss of sand across the stone like a whispering language. It slides through half-buried corridors, down broken stairways, through cracks in ancient ceilings. The sound is soft but constant, as though the land itself remembers every prayer ever spoken here. Above, the temples shine in moonlight, majestic, empty, enduring. Below, the earth holds the other half of their story, the unseen labor, the secret rituals, the faith in life after life. To stand before these temples is to stand between two worlds. One world is carved in sunlight, full of precision and splendor, the Egypt of pharaohs and gods. The other sleeps beneath, wrapped in darkness and memory, its stories told only in fragments and echoes. Together they form the heartbeat of an ancient truth, that all creation is dual, light and shadow, seen and unseen. For every temple that rises, another lies buried. And in that balance, Egypt's mystery continues, breathing softly through time, waiting for those who dare to listen, not with eyes, but with silence. Beneath the desert's quiet surface, there is still movement. Sand shifts, wind rearranges, and somewhere far below, the ancient tunnels hold steady, watching centuries pass. Egypt's temples endure not because they are indestructible, but because they are patient. They know that one day the world will listen again, that one day we will remember that the divine was always beneath our feet, sleeping in stone, waiting to awaken. The jungle hums like a slow heartbeat, deep and rhythmic, a green ocean folding over itself in endless waves. Mist drifts between the trees, curling around the broken towers and archways of Angkor, what as if reluctant to let them go. Here, stone and vine have grown inseparable. Roots cling to walls with the tenderness of memory, wrapping the ruins in a living shroud. The air is heavy and damp, filled with the scent of earth and rain. Somewhere distant, the call of a bird echoes against the stillness. It feels as though time itself has paused, kneeling in reverence before the temple that refuses to die. Angkor, what was once the beating heart of an empire, a city of gods and kings reflected in water and gold. Its stones were carved not just for beauty, but for eternity. Their surface is dense with stories of creation, cosmic balance, and divine struggle. Each tower was a symbol of Mount Meru, the sacred mountain at the center of the universe. But beneath the elegance of its symmetry, beneath the lotus-shaped towers that touch the sky, lies another Angkor, one hidden under centuries of soil, forgotten and half swallowed by the jungle. Archaeologists have found traces of buried foundations, lost temples, and ancient reservoirs sprawling beneath the visible complex, suggesting that the city that once surrounded Angkor, what was far larger and more intricate than anyone imagined. In recent years, radar scans and aerial mapping have revealed faint outlines beneath the dense vegetation. Roads, canals, and ceremonial pools, entire neighborhoods swallowed by the green tide. The earth beneath Angkor is a palimpsest of civilizations layered atop one another, each generation building over the bones of the last. Beneath the walkways where tourists now pass, ancient tunnels run in silence, connecting shrines that no longer exist above. Their entrances are hidden by collapsed stone and tree roots thicker than the arms of giants. The temples of Angkor are mirrors of the human condition, grand, visionary, but slowly reclaimed by the forces that gave them birth. At Top Rome, the most haunting of them all, the jungle's dominion is absolute. Massive silk cotton trees have grown through the roof, their roots spilling over walls like waterfalls of wood. The temple seems to breathe. Sunlight pierces through gaps in the canopy, painting the moss-covered carvings in shifting patterns of gold and green. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the distant flutter of wings, feels amplified in the hush. The silence is not empty but alive, dense with presence. It is easy to imagine the monks who once walked these corridors, their bare feet whispering against the stone, their prayers mingling with the scent of incense and rain. Yet beneath that serene surface, there are stories of power and loss. Angkor was not merely a place of worship. It was a living organism, pulsing with water, light, and human devotion. The vast reservoirs, or barays, that surrounded the temples were feats of hydraulic genius, designed to control the life-giving floods of the monsoon. These waters reflected the heavens, creating a mirror world where the divine and the earthly met. Over time, as the empire fell and the canals silted over, the water receded, leaving the temples stranded like ancient ships upon a green sea. The jungle advanced, slow and inevitable, erasing the outlines of the empire but not its spirit. To descend beneath Angkor's stones is to step into that spirit. There are chambers sealed by centuries of debris, rooms where murals still gleam faintly beneath layers of dust, inscriptions in forgotten languages that scholars struggle to read. In some of these subterranean spaces, offerings have been found, bronze statues, ceramic vessels, beads of precious stone. The people who placed them there believed that life extended downward, that beneath the visible world lay the foundation of eternity. Just as the towers reached skyward toward the divine, the crypts below anchored them to the sacred depths of the earth. It was a cosmic balance, heaven above, the underworld below, humanity in between. Legends tell that beneath Angkor what lies a hidden chamber of gold, guarded by serpents and spirits, sealed to protect the heart of the empire. Others speak of a great underground hall where kings were anointed in secret, their coronations mirrored in the heavens above. Whether these stories are myth or memory hardly matters. In the quiet of the ruins, they feel true. The jungle has become their guardian, keeping watch over what remains unseen. Every fallen leaf and vine is part of the spell, a slow, patient act of preservation. As the monsoon rain begins to fall, the temple transforms again. Water runs down the carvings like tears, filling the cracks between stones. The smell of wet earth rises, rich and ancient. Somewhere deep below, the underground reservoirs stir, the remnants of the old canals still channeling rainwater through unseen veins. The sound is soothing, like the slow exhalation of a giant. Above ground, the temple glows faintly in the storm's soft light. Below, the earth drinks in the rain, feeding roots that tighten their hold on the ruins, as if protecting them from being lost entirely. What makes Angkor Wat's buried world so mysterious is not just its physical presence, but the feeling it evokes, that sense of something vast yet intimate, human yet eternal. The Khmer builders understood that creation and decay are not opposites, but partners in an endless dance. They built their temples to endure the rise and fall of kingdoms, knowing that even in ruin, beauty would remain. The jungle, in turn, has honored their work, wrapping it not in destruction, but in quiet embrace. At dawn, when the mist begins to lift, the reflection of Angkor Wat shimmers on the surface of the moat, perfectly still. The image seems both real and unreal, an illusion suspended between water and air. Perhaps that is the temple's greatest secret, that it was never meant to exist in just one world. It stands between realms, bridging heaven and earth, light and shadow, growth and decay. The stones above tell one story, the roots below another. Together, they whisper a truth as old as time itself, that nothing built in reverence ever truly disappears. It simply changes form, waits in silence, and continues to breathe beneath the green and golden veil of the world. Beneath the weight of the world, there lies another world, a labyrinth of quiet corridors, forgotten tunnels, and hidden passageways carved by human hands long before history learned to write its name. The surface of the earth dazzles with monuments, temples, and shining relics of faith, but what lies below tells a softer, stranger story. It is the story of descent, the instinct that led ancient builders to dig downward toward the deep places where sound becomes breath and time becomes slow. Across continents and centuries, the pattern repeats. Beneath temples, there are chambers. Beneath cities, there are veins of stone and silence. Beneath every civilization, there is a reflection of its soul carved into the dark. In the deserts of Egypt, long after the last rays of sun have faded from the dunes, there are whispers of tunnels that stretch beneath entire complexes, corridors connecting shrines and tombs, winding like veins beneath the sand. Archaeologists follow their traces cautiously, the air growing colder, the walls narrowing, as if the earth itself is testing the courage of those who enter. Some of these passageways were meant for the dead, pathways to eternity. Others were practical conduits, built for priests who moved unseen beneath the temples during rituals, their voices emerging from hidden vents to mimic the gods themselves. To those who worshipped above, the words seemed to come from nowhere, from the stone, from the heavens, from within. But their source lay in the living labyrinth below. Travel farther north and west, and the story continues. Beneath Rome, an empire built upon faith and fear, lies a city of the dead, the catacombs. Narrow tunnels stretch for miles, lined with alcoves where early Christians buried their martyrs and their hopes. The air down there is cool, heavy with moisture and incense. The walls are painted with symbols, a fish, a dove, a simple cross. For those who descended in secret, these tunnels were not places of mourning, but sanctuaries, hidden hearts of resistance. Above ground, the empire ruled with iron and flame. Below, in the flicker of oil lamps, faith was quietly reborn. The contrast could not be more profound. Power in the sunlight, devotion in the dark. On the other side of the world, the ancient cities of the Maya and the Aztec built downward too, into the womb of the earth. Beneath their temples, caves and tunnels connected to sacred cenotes, underground pools of clear, still water, believed to be gateways to the underworld. Priests descended carrying torches, their reflections trembling on the water's surface like souls suspended between two realities. Offerings were cast into the depths, jade, gold, and sometimes blood, gifts to appease the spirits that guarded the unseen. To the people of those civilizations, the underworld was not a place of punishment, but of renewal. To go below was to touch the divine source of life, the heart of the cosmos itself. In Turkey's Cappadocia region, whole underground cities lie hidden beneath the volcanic plains. Derinkuyu, Kemakli, and others, carved deep into soft rock. They were vast enough to hold thousands of people, complete with ventilation shafts, kitchens, and wells. Long before they became places of refuge from invasion, they were sites of ritual and protection, part of a sacred geography linking the Earth's surface to its heart. Some say these underground sanctuaries were designed not just for survival, but for communion with ancestors, with the gods of the deep, or with the earth itself. When the wind sweeps over Cappadocia's strange stone towers, it carries the hollow sound of those hidden chambers below, as if the land is breathing through its ancient lungs. In India, the instinct to descend takes a different shape. The stepwells and subterranean temples that mark the landscapes of Gujarat and Rajasthan. These are temples that lead not upward but downward, stairways spiraling into the earth until they reach the coolness of hidden water. The Udluj Vav, for example, is both architecture and poem, a five-story descent carved in exquisite detail, where sunlight fades slowly as one walks downward through columns, carvings, and arches. Each level cools the air and quiets the noise of the surface world. It is said that pilgrims once sat in meditation at the lowest step, listening to the faint echo of dripping water as though it were the heartbeat of the earth itself. The journey downward was a sacred act, a symbolic return to the source, a surrender to the stillness that gives rise to life. Across time and space, humanity has dug into the ground for different reasons: to hide, to worship, to survive, but beneath all those motives lies something universal. To descend is to seek understanding. The tunnels, caves, and chambers beneath temples reflect the inner architecture of the human spirit, the longing to go deeper, to find what cannot be seen in the light. Just as the ancients built their sanctuaries along the stars' alignments above, they carved into the earth to align with the mysteries below. The world beneath mirrors the world above, a sacred symmetry that binds the visible to the invisible. If you listen closely in these underground places, there's always a sound, a faint hum, a drip of water, a soft vibration that feels almost like breathing. It is the sound of the earth remembering, the sound of everything humanity has buried, its fears, its faith, its longing for eternity. Each tunnel, no matter where it lies, connects us to that same truth, that the sacred has no single direction. It dwells above and below, in light and in shadow. The ancients knew this long before we did. The bridge between the surface and the depths is not made of stone or stairs. It is made of silence. When the world above grows too loud, the earth below waits patiently, a sanctuary for what must be preserved. Beneath every temple, beneath every ruin, there lies a pathway that leads inward, into the mystery that all humans share. Down there, the noise of history fades, and what remains is timeless. A quiet pulse in the dark, the sound of the sacred sleeping just below the reach of light. Beneath the surface of the sea, where light softens into silence and colors fade into dream, the ruins of ancient temples sleep beneath the tide. They are neither alive nor gone, suspended in the slow rhythm of waves and centuries. The ocean has become their guardian, covering what once rose proudly above the shore with veils of coral, sand, and shimmering shadow. To drift over them now is to float between worlds, the memory of civilization below, the eternity of water above. Here, in the quiet beneath the waves, the boundary between myth and history dissolves like salt. The world's first great temples were built with the belief that nothing could destroy them. Yet the sea, in its quiet persistence, has swallowed more than empires. It has taken entire cities into its depths. In the waters off the coast of India lies one such legend, the city of Dvarka. Ancient texts describe it as a radiant kingdom built by the god Krishna himself, filled with palaces made of gold, silver, and jewels that sparkled brighter than the sun. For centuries, Dvarka was believed to be only myth, a celestial tale told to inspire devotion. But when divers and archaeologists began exploring the Gulf of Cambodia, they found stone structures arranged with impossible precision, walls, pillars, and foundations lying 6 stories deep beneath the sea. Carbon dating of artifacts recovered from the site suggested human activity older than any known city in India. The discovery stirred both awe and unease. Could these be the remnants of a civilization erased by the rising sea? The ocean, it seemed, had kept its own archives. Some scientists see in Dvarka a reminder of geological shifts and floods that marked the end of the last ice age. Others see a deeper mystery, the physical echo of myth, where faith and memory overlap. In the soft current, sand drifts across what might once have been a temple courtyard. Fish move through doorways where priests once stood. What the ocean took, it now preserves in silence. Far to the east, near the Japanese island of Yonaguni, another enigma rests beneath the waves. Massive stone terraces, sharp-edged and geometric, rise from the seabed like a submerged pyramid. Steps lead upward, though they lead nowhere now. For decades, divers and scholars have debated whether this structure is the work of human hands or the sculpting of nature itself. The lines are too straight, the proportions too perfect, yet there is no consensus. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Nature's form refined by human intention, or humanity guided by the shapes it found already waiting in the rock. Whatever the answer, the Yonaguni monument humbles those who see it. It feels not like ruin, but like memory, something carved to endure even when the sea claimed it back. Closer to the Mediterranean, in the waters near Alexandria, Egypt's ancient harbor hides a sunken world of its own. There, divers have found the remains of palaces, sphinxes, and colossal statues, all remnants of the city that once housed Cleopatra's court. Earthquakes and tides dragged it into the depths over 2,000 years ago. Now, the Queen's city lies beneath the waves, her temples of Isis and Serapis shrouded in silence. Marble columns lean against coral, their once sharp edges softened by time. The sea moves through the ruins like breath, slow and steady. It is said that Cleopatra's final sanctuary, her mausoleum, may still rest somewhere below, waiting to be found. The thought alone is enough to make the water feel heavy with history, thick with the pulse of what once was. The ocean is both destroyer and preserver. Its tides erase outlines and then draw them anew. Its pressure crushes and its silence protects. In the ruins beneath the waves, time behaves differently. There is no decay as there is on land, only transformation. Barnacles become ornaments, coral replaces mosaic. Fish glide through archways as if continuing a ritual too ancient to end. The ocean does not mourn, it remembers. In its depths, every civilization finds a strange kind of immortality. Not all drowned temples belong to mythic kingdoms. Off the coast of Cuba, sonar scans have revealed symmetrical structures resting hundreds of feet below the surface. Grids, walls, and shapes resembling pyramids. The site remains largely unexplored, veiled in speculation. Some imagine it as a remnant of a lost continent, perhaps even Atlantis, the fabled island described by Plato. Others insist it is a trick of light and geology. Yet the allure of the unknown persists. Atlantis, whether real or symbolic, represents our deepest fear and fascination. The idea that entire civilizations can vanish overnight, leaving behind only silence and story. Beneath the Aegean, similar ruins have been found near Pavlopetri, Greece, believed to be one of the oldest submerged cities in the world. Streets, courtyards, and temples still lie in perfect order, preserved by the sea for over 5,000 years. It is a ghost city in slow motion, its walls draped in seagrass, its streets home to creatures of coral and shell. Every current that passes through it seems to whisper the same refrain, that no matter how deeply time buries us, traces remain. The ocean does not reveal its secrets easily. Divers move carefully, their bubbles rising like prayers. The water muffles every sound except the rhythm of breathing. Light dances across the seabed, revealing details for a moment before taking them back into shadow. Every object down there, a column, a step, a carving, feels charged with something sacred. These places once resonated with drums and chanting, now replaced by the hum of water and the heartbeat of the diver who discovers them. In that silence, the distance between past and present disappears. The sea becomes a mirror reflecting the oldest truth, that nothing human ever truly ends. It merely changes form, waiting to be remembered. Perhaps these submerged temples are not lost at all. Perhaps they were always meant to be part of the ocean's rhythm. Many ancient myths speak of cycles: flood and rebirth, descent and return. The great flood that appears in countless cultures may not have been punishment, but renewal, a cleansing that allowed life to begin again. The ruins beneath the waves are monuments to that rhythm, evidence of both human fragility and endurance. The people who built them may have prayed to the same waters that later consumed them, never imagining that their prayers would become the foundation of mystery itself. As night descends over the sea, the waves grow calm. Beneath the surface, the temples rest, luminous in the soft light that filters through the depths. Fish drift between columns like wandering souls, their scales flashing like fragments of forgotten gold. Somewhere far below, a doorway stands half buried in sand, its threshold untouched for thousands of years. The ocean moves through it endlessly, breathing life into the stillness. Above, the stars shimmer on the water's skin, mirroring the lights of a city that once stood here. And for a moment, the sea and the sky are the same, a vast reflection of what was, what is, and what will always remain beneath. When we walk among the ruins of temples or imagine the sacred chambers hidden beneath them, we see only the stone. Yet every stone once carried sound. Every hall was built not just to stand, but to sing. Ancient temples were not silent places. They were resonant instruments, designed to make the invisible audible. Across the world, civilizations that never met each other seemed to share this secret knowledge. That vibration, not vision, was the first language of the divine. Sound was how one reached what could not be touched. And so, they built in tune with the unseen. In the Egyptian temples of Dendera and Karnak, explorers have long noticed an uncanny acoustic harmony. When the priests chanted in the inner sanctums, their voices multiplied, bouncing off the curved walls and echoing in deep, rolling tones. These were not accidents of architecture. The builders shaped their chambers to harness sound, to make every syllable bloom into resonance. Those who entered during ceremonies described hearing voices not just from the priests, but from the stones themselves, as if the temple was answering. In darkness, with oil lamps flickering, that echo could blur the line between human and divine. One could not tell where prayer ended and the gods began. Thousands of miles away, in the rock-cut temples of India, that same mastery of sound lived in stone. At Ellora, the great Kailasa temple was carved downward from a single mountain, its vast chambers shaped to carry chant and music across the entire complex. If one sings a single note near its central sanctum, the vibration travels through the corridors like water in motion. Each wall, each pillar, seems to hum in harmony, a living body of resonance. In some smaller cave temples, the tones create standing waves, vibrations that linger long after the sound has stopped, like the earth itself is still singing. It is said that ancient builders tested every hall by humming into it, listening for the note that made the stone come alive. Only when it responded was the work declared sacred. In the temples of Greece, too, the role of sound shaped both space and ceremony. The theaters of Epidaurus and Delphi, while open to the sky, were built with uncanny precision, so that a whisper from the stage could be heard in the highest row. The ancients understood that divine communication was not only seen through ritual, but felt through resonance. When an oracle spoke from the dark chambers of Delphi, her voice rose through a narrow stone vent, distorted and deepened until it seemed otherworldly. Those who heard it believed it came not from a woman, but from Apollo himself. Sound became the medium between the mortal and the eternal. In South America, the builders of Chavindahuantar in the Peruvian Andes took this understanding even deeper, literally. Beneath their temple, a network of underground passageways created a maze of echoes. Archaeologists have found that the labyrinth was designed to channel the roar of conch shells, used as ritual trumpets through the walls. The result was overwhelming, a thunderous hum that filled the tunnels, disorienting the senses. To those inside, the sound felt alive, almost as if the stones were breathing. In the flickering torchlight, it would have seemed as though the gods were moving through the corridors. These sounds were not merely for ceremony. They were psychological doorways, guiding participants in altered states of consciousness where the divine could be felt rather than seen. Even in faraway Britain, at sites like Newgrange and Stonehenge, the alignment of architecture and sound persists. Inside Newgrange's stone passage, when a deep tone is chanted, it reverberates and amplifies until it feels as though the entire chamber vibrates in harmony. And on the shortest day of the year, when sunlight pierces the entrance, sound and light meet. Two forces intertwined in one ritual moment. The ancients knew something we're only beginning to remember. That sound, when shaped by intention and space, opens the door to something far greater than words. Modern researchers have begun to measure what ancient priests once felt in their bones. Certain frequencies, especially those between 90 and 120 hertz, affect the human body directly. They slow the heartbeat, alter brainwave patterns, and induce calm or trance. In ancient temples where these frequencies resonate naturally, one can almost sense that these effects were deliberate. The builders may not have had our language for physics, but they had an intuitive science of the soul. They knew that to quiet the mind, one must tune the body. The temples were, in truth, instruments for transforming human consciousness. What is most remarkable is that these resonant designs emerged everywhere. Egypt, India, Peru, Greece, without contact or shared blueprint. It is as if early humanity received the same whisper from the earth itself. Perhaps the stones taught them. Perhaps they discovered, through patience and listening, that matter itself sings. Some myths speak of the world being created through sound, the cosmic syllable, the divine word, the vibration that brought light from darkness. If that is true, then the temples were echoes of that first note, recreations of the moment when silence turned into existence. To step into these spaces, even now, is to feel something ancient stir within. The modern ear may not catch the sacred chants, but the resonance remains. A single hum can awaken the sleeping harmonies of stone. Tourists often describe it without knowing why. A strange calm, a tingling in the chest, a sense of being watched yet embraced. Is the temple remembering what it was built for? The sound still waits there, buried in the walls, waiting for a voice to call it back to life. The ancients did not separate sound from spirit. To them, every vibration was a bridge, a connection between the visible and the invisible, between the body and the breath of creation. And perhaps that is the greatest secret buried in these sacred ruins. Not the relics or inscriptions, but the awareness that the world is alive in resonance. Even when the chants have faded and the languages are forgotten, the stones continue to hum softly in the wind. The earth keeps the note. Some nights, when the air is still, those old frequencies seem to rise again. The wind moves through broken pillars, the sea sighs against old foundations, and a faint harmony drifts through the darkness. It is as though the temples still remember the songs sung within them. And in that quiet music, the resonance between past and present, we hear what the ancients already knew, that the divine was never distant. It was always in the sound. When night falls upon the jungles, deserts, and mountain plains that cradle ancient ruins, something extraordinary happens. The stillness deepens, the wind slows, and the air seems to listen. It is in these hours, when human presence retreats and the earth takes a breath, that the hidden patterns of alignment within ancient temples reveal themselves. What we once thought were random placements or grand gestures of design turn out to be maps, celestial, mathematical, spiritual. The ancients did not build blindly. They built in correspondence with the stars, the solstices, the movement of shadow and light. They built as if every stone had to harmonize with heaven itself. The pyramids of Giza stand as perhaps the most famous testament to this sacred alignment. When the stars of Orion's belt rise above the horizon, their pattern mirrors perfectly the three pyramids on the Giza Plateau. The ancient Egyptians associated Orion with Osiris, the god of rebirth and the afterlife. The alignment was not symbolic alone, it was functional. The passageways within the Great Pyramid point precisely toward specific stars, guiding the pharaoh's soul toward eternity. To those who entered its silent corridors, it was not a tomb, but a vessel, a machine for resurrection. Each star, each angle, was a note in a cosmic hymn. The builders were not merely architects. They were astronomers, philosophers, and dreamers who believed stone could mirror the heavens. Far across the ocean, in the dry plains of Mexico, the temple of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza tells a similar story through light and shadow. During the equinox, when the day and night are equal, the setting sun casts a serpent-shaped shadow along the pyramid steps. It seems to slither downward, connecting heaven and earth in a fleeting, luminous ritual. The Maya watched this spectacle not as observers, but as participants in the rhythm of the cosmos. They had built a calendar out of stone, a temple that marked the pulse of the universe itself. The serpent's descent was not a trick of light. It was a promise, a sign that balance had returned to the world. The same understanding guided the construction of temples in ancient Greece and Rome. The Temple of Apollo at Delphi was oriented toward the rising sun of specific days in the year, linking divine prophecy with celestial precision. At Baalbek in Lebanon, colossal stones align with solstices and star risings so precisely that even modern instruments struggle to measure them better. It is as though these temples were part of a dialogue between the earth and the cosmos, a conversation carved in limestone and granite, where every shadow was a word, every beam of light a reply. In the highlands of Peru, the Incan Temple of the Sun in Machu Picchu was designed with that same cosmic language. The temple's window captures the exact point of sunrise during the winter solstice, illuminating its interior with golden light. The Incas called this moment Inti Raymi, the festival of the sun when life was renewed. Their temples were both observatories and sanctuaries, places where science and spirit were one. To stand inside as the light moves through the window is to feel time itself bend, to realize that the ancients were not simply worshiping the sun, but conversing with it. Even older than these marvels is the structure at Nabta Playa in Egypt's Nubian desert, an arrangement of stones forming a prehistoric calendar that predates Stonehenge by 1,000 years. These stones align perfectly with the rising of specific stars during the summer solstice. To think that nomadic herders in the deep past tracked such precision reveals something humbling. Long before civilization as we know it, humanity already looked upward, seeking order in the infinite. The stars were not distant lights to them. They were guides, teachers, perhaps even ancestors. Stonehenge itself, standing silent on the English plain, continues this pattern. Each monolith was placed not merely for aesthetic symmetry, but for celestial function. On midsummer morning, the sun rises directly over the heel stone, flooding the circle with light. The people who gathered there thousands of years ago would have seen it as proof that the world was still in harmony, that their time, their earth, and their gods were aligned. To this day, when the first rays strike the ancient stones, modern visitors fall silent, sensing something older than language moving through the light. What connects all these sites, Egyptian, Mayan, Greek, Incan, Celtic, is not geography, but intention. The builders sought not to dominate nature, but to collaborate with it. Their temples were bridges, joining sky to soil, eternity to impermanence. In their mathematics and geometry, there was reverence, not control. When they placed a stone, they listened first to the stars, to the wind, to the unseen rhythms that still hum through the earth. What we see now as architecture was, for them, participation in a living cosmos. There is an ancient belief that still lingers in fragments today. As above, so below. It speaks to a truth that these temples embodied in form, that whatever exists in the heavens is reflected on earth. The microcosm mirrors the macrocosm. The soul of a person mirrors the soul of the universe. This idea was carved into their temples, encoded in their layouts, preserved in their rituals. The temple itself became a body, the entrance as its mouth, the inner sanctum as its heart, the spire or dome as its head. And when the light entered, it was like the breath of the cosmos entering the lungs of creation. Standing amid these ruins now, the alignments still whisper to those who notice. The sunlight still strikes at the exact angle it did thousands of years ago. The stars still rise in the same patient rhythm. Though the priests and builders are gone, their geometry remains alive, a silent, perfect memory of purpose. To trace a beam of light across the floor of an ancient temple is to witness a conversation that has never stopped, a dialogue between stone and sky that continues long after we have forgotten its words. And perhaps that is the mystery that keeps us returning to these places. Beneath the decay, beneath the erosion of centuries, something still moves with cosmic grace. The same stars that guided the ancients still burn above us, indifferent and eternal. The same sun that entered their sanctuaries at dawn still spills its warmth on our own faces. The temples may have crumbled, but their message remains intact, that the world, in all its vastness and stillness, was built in harmony, that to know the sacred, one need only look upward, then downward, and see that they are one and the same. There is something hauntingly beautiful about the idea that the world we walk upon may still be hiding entire chapters of its own story. Beneath the layers of soil and time, ancient temples and ruins remain sealed away, guarded not by locks, but by silence. Archaeologists have unearthed many wonders, yet the earth still holds more than it has ever revealed. Some discoveries appear by accident. A farmer's plow striking a buried stone, a storm washing away sand to expose a forgotten stairway. Others emerge through deliberate search, guided by technology and intuition alike. But each time a buried temple is uncovered, it feels less like discovery and more like reawakening. Something that was never truly gone, only sleeping, waiting for the right hands to listen to the ground and hear its whisper. In the shifting sands of Göbekli Tepe, on the hills of southeastern Turkey, that whisper became a revelation. When archaeologists began excavating there in the 1990s, they found enormous T-shaped pillars carved with images of animals and celestial symbols. The site was older than anyone expected, nearly 12,000 years old, predating Stonehenge and the pyramids by millennia. What astonished researchers even more was that it had been deliberately buried around 8,000 BCE. A temple older than written history had been entombed by the very people who built it. No one knows why. Some believe it was an act of reverence, a ritual burial of a sacred site after its purpose was fulfilled. Others suspect fear. Perhaps something had changed in the skies, in the land, or in the hearts of those who worshipped there. Whatever the reason, the soil itself became the guardian of memory, keeping Göbekli Tepe safe until we were ready to rediscover it. Deep in the jungles of Cambodia, another giant slept beneath a shroud of vines and roots for centuries. The temple complex of Angkor, once the center of the mighty Khmer Empire, was gradually reclaimed by nature after the city fell in the 15th century. When explorers stumbled upon it in the 19th century, it seemed less like a ruin and more like a dream. The jungle had not destroyed it, but embraced it, wrapping it in green arms, allowing it to rest. The roots of ancient trees grew through walls and over carvings, holding the stones in place as though protecting them. To walk through Angkor today is to feel that the earth and temple made a pact long ago, that one would decay into the other, that the divine and the natural would become one continuous thing. In the deserts of Egypt, the buried secrets are more deliberate, more hidden. Beneath the sands around Saqqara and Abydos, archaeologists continue to uncover underground temples, tunnels, and tombs whose existence was only hinted at in ancient texts. One such discovery was the Osiris Shaft, a vast, multi-level chamber carved into the bedrock, flooded with groundwater, and adorned with niches and inscriptions. For decades, it was considered a myth, mentioned only in fragments. When it was finally rediscovered, the space seemed more than human, a dark, echoing cavern where water met stone and silence reigned. Its name, invoking the god of the underworld, felt fitting. The shaft was not built to be seen. It was built to be hidden, a place for rituals that belonged to the deep. Standing at its edge, one can almost feel the gravity of ancient intention, the desire to anchor belief not just to heaven, but to the heart of the earth. Far from the sands, under the volcanic plains of Central America, buried temples tell their stories through fire and ash. In El Salvador, beneath the site of Joya de Serén, lies a perfectly preserved village from over 1,400 years ago, frozen in time by the eruption of a nearby volcano. The ash covered everything in an instant, capturing bowls mid-meal, tools mid-work, and altars mid-prayer. Archaeologists call it the Pompeii of the Americas. But unlike Pompeii, this site was not a grand city. It was a small, living community where ritual and daily life were one. The eruption became an unwitting act of preservation, the Earth's own way of keeping memory intact. In every brushstroke that removes the ash, the modern world reconnects with the pulse of an ancient morning, a moment that never truly ended. Then there are the ruins that lie hidden under water and mountain alike, such as the buried city of Heracleion off the coast of modern Alexandria. Once a thriving port, it sank suddenly into the sea after a series of earthquakes and floods. For over 1,000 years, it was known only through legend, its existence doubted by scholars. When it was rediscovered beneath layers of silt and salt water, divers found colossal statues of pharaohs, inscriptions in Greek and Egyptian, and vast temple foundations dedicated to the god Ammonius. Everything was preserved as if paused mid-breath. The sea had covered it, but it had not erased it. It was as though the gods of that place had chosen to keep their sanctuary untouched by the decay of time, hidden under the veil of the waves. There's a kind of poetry in how these buried temples and forgotten ruins re-emerge. They come back not when we demand them, but when we are quiet enough to notice. The earth reveals them slowly, almost tenderly. Sometimes a drought uncovers the outline of walls beneath a lake. Sometimes a satellite image catches what the human eye cannot, a faint geometric pattern in the desert, a straight line of stones under forest canopy. Technology, like divination, becomes our modern way of listening to the unseen. Ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR mapping now show us entire cities buried beneath jungles and fields, networks of temples, roads, and courtyards stretching farther than anyone imagined. Yet even as we uncover more, the mystery only deepens. The more we know, the more questions multiply. Why they were built, why they were hidden, and what their builders hoped we might find when we finally unearth them. To uncover these places is to disturb a kind of sacred sleep. Each stone pulled from the soil carries the weight of both wonder and grief. The air that fills a chamber for the first time in millennia feels heavy, as if it remembers the prayers once spoken there. Archaeologists often describe moments of eerie quiet. Birds stop singing, wind stills, and for a heartbeat the entire world seems to listen. It is as if the earth itself exhales after holding its secret for so long. And perhaps that is the true mystery of buried temples. Not what they contain, but how they survived. Against time, against erosion, against human forgetfulness, they waited. They waited through floods and droughts, through wars and silence. They waited until curiosity became reverence again. Every discovery reminds us that history is not dead. It is simply patient. The temples beneath our feet, whether in desert, jungle, or sea, are the earth's memory made visible. They do not emerge to be conquered or collected, but to remind us of our place in the cycle, to teach that nothing sacred is ever truly lost, only hidden, waiting beneath the dust for the right kind of silence to bring it back to light. Among the ruins and the whispering sands, there are stories that refuse to rest, legends that rise from the cracks between history and myth, carrying the breath of forgotten gods. Every ancient temple, no matter how studied, carries within it a shadow that refuses to be explained. For every artifact uncovered, there is a question left unanswered. In these questions, mystery lives on, and in the quiet hours of night, when the world grows still and our thoughts begin to drift, those mysteries feel closer, almost alive, as though the past itself is leaning forward, waiting to speak. Some of the oldest myths tell us that the gods never truly left. They simply withdrew into the stones, the rivers, the caves, and the ruins we now explore. Temples were not merely homes for deities. They were vessels of presence. In Egypt, the priests of Karnak and Luxor spoke of divine breath lingering in stone. They believed the god Ammonius dwelled within the very walls, his spirit animating the air that filled the temple halls. When worship ceased and empires fell, it was said that the gods went dormant, like embers beneath ash. The people left, the sand reclaimed the sanctuaries, but the sacred essence remained. And so, when archaeologists enter these dark chambers today, some still report strange sensations, a weight in the air, a whisper at the edge of hearing, the unmistakable feeling of being watched by something ancient, patient, and aware. In Greece, similar stories took root. The Oracle of Delphi was said to draw her visions from vapors rising from beneath the earth, breaths of the god Apollo himself. For centuries, scholars dismissed these accounts as myth, until modern geological studies revealed fault lines beneath Delphi that emit ethylene gas, known to induce trance-like states. The myth, it seems, was not merely imagination, but memory, a poetic retelling of a natural mystery turned sacred. But it raises another question. Did the ancients build their temples where the gods dwelled, or did the gods arrive because of where the temples were built? The answer remains as elusive as the vapor itself. In India, the legend of the hidden city of Shambhala speaks of a temple realm that cannot be found by ordinary means. It is said to lie somewhere beyond the Himalayas, a paradise of wisdom and peace, invisible to those who seek it with ambition, yet revealed to those whose hearts are pure. For centuries, explorers, mystics, and scholars have searched for it, following maps that fade into myth. Some claim that Shambhala exists in another dimension, accessible only through altered consciousness or death. Others believe it symbolizes an inner journey, the temple within the self, hidden beneath layers of illusion. Either way, the legend endures, bridging the space between geography and soul, reminding us that not all temples are made of stone. In Mesoamerica, among the Maya, the myths speak of caves and temples that connect to Xibalba, the underworld of trials and transformation. Many of these caves, when explored today, reveal evidence of ancient rituals, offerings of jade, pottery, and even human remains left in chambers so deep that sunlight has never touched them. For the Maya, these were not places of fear, but of communion. The underworld was not hell. It was the mirror of the living world, the place where creation began. Some of these caves remain sealed, untouched since the last ceremony thousands of years ago. The air inside is heavy and still, as if time itself has paused out of respect. Standing at the threshold, one cannot help but feel that what sleeps there should remain undisturbed. Then there are the stories that blur even further between myth and the unexplainable. The ziggurat of Uar in ancient Mesopotamia, one of the world's earliest temples, was believed to be a ladder between heaven and earth, a stairway for the gods. But ancient inscriptions also speak of lights in the sky, descending upon it, of divine beings who taught humanity the art of writing, astronomy, and kingship. Similar accounts appear in the myths of the Dogon people of Mali, who, long before modern telescopes, spoke of a companion star to Sirius that is invisible to the naked eye, a fact only confirmed by science in the 20th century. How could they have known? Were these coincidences or remnants of a knowledge lost to time? The question lingers, suspended in the air like the hum of the stars themselves. In the heart of Cambodia, there's a tale whispered among monks that the temple of Angkor Wat, so vast and mathematically perfect, was not built by human hands alone. Legends tell that divine architects, celestial beings of light, descended from the sky and shaped the temple overnight. Even now, the carvings on its walls depict creatures that seem not of this world, half human, half bird, surrounded by strange symbols that scholars cannot fully interpret. To walk its galleries at dawn, when mist clings to the stone and the world feels suspended between night and day, is to feel that those legends may not be entirely metaphor. But perhaps the most enduring myth of all is Atlantis, the city said to have vanished beneath the sea, punished or protected by the gods. Plato wrote of it not as fantasy, but as history, a place of great wisdom and power that fell because it forgot balance. Whether real or allegorical, the story of Atlantis echoes in every sunken ruin, every drowned temple, every lost civilization rediscovered by chance. It is as though the earth itself remembers the fall, replaying it across ages, reminding us that every empire carries within it the seed of its own disappearance. Across continents, the same motifs appear again and again. Temples that hum, stones that heal, stars that guide, gods that descend and vanish, civilizations that rise and fall into silence. The patterns seem too consistent to dismiss as coincidence. Perhaps the ancients were part of a shared awareness, a wisdom scattered like seeds across the world. Or perhaps we, looking backward through the haze of millennia, weave these threads together because we long for meaning, for proof that the sacred once walked among us. What remains certain is that the mystery continues to deepen the more we search. Science gives us data, carbon dates, measurements, and theories, but none can fully account for the pull these ruins exert upon the soul. There is something in them that refuses to be reduced to explanation. Standing before a temple wall covered in indecipherable symbols, or in the echoing heart of a chamber untouched for thousands of years, one feels it, a presence beyond words. Whether it is the echo of human devotion or the lingering breath of something divine, no one can say. As the stars rise above these ruins, and the night breeze drifts softly through the cracks of forgotten stone, the stories come alive once more. The air feels thick with memory, The shadows flicker like breath. The past leans close, and for a moment, it is as if the ancient world is not gone but simply waiting, its secrets intact, its gods asleep, its temples whispering to anyone who listens long enough. And in that stillness, between belief and reason, between what we know and what we only feel, the mysteries remain, eternal and patient, just as the ancients intended. There are places on this earth where the air itself feels charged, where silence hums, and even time seems to hesitate before entering. These are the so-called energy temples, sites where legend and science blur, where ancient stones are said to pulse with unseen power. Whether one calls it magnetic anomaly, geomantic force, or spiritual resonance, countless travelers, seekers, and scholars alike have described the same sensation. That certain ruins hum with life, as if the stones themselves remember the rhythm of creation. In these places, the body feels lighter, thoughts quiet, and the heart begins to move in time with something vast and ancient. It is not belief that draws people to these sites. It is experience, the undeniable pull of the unseen. From a mist-covered plateau of Machu Picchu to the standing stones of Stonehenge, the world's most sacred places seem to align not only with the stars, but with invisible currents running through the earth. The Chinese once called them dragon lines, the veins of the planet through which life force, or qi, flows. In Europe, they were known as ley lines, imagined as straight threads connecting cathedrals, tombs, and monoliths. The idea that the earth itself possesses an energetic anatomy may sound mystical, yet even modern geology reveals networks of magnetic variation, mineral channels, and subterranean water flows that can influence both landscape and mind. Perhaps the ancients knew how to feel what we now measure. Perhaps they sensed these currents like the pulse beneath the skin of the world. At Machu Picchu, visitors often describe an unmistakable vibration. High in the Andes, surrounded by clouds and light, the stones seem to hum softly beneath the fingertips. Some scientists attribute this to the granite itself, rich in quartz and magnetite, minerals capable of generating piezoelectric energy when under pressure. The Inca, without modern instruments, selected these stones deliberately, shaping them so precisely that they interlocked like gears. Each block became part of a greater mechanism, a circuit of earth and spirit. The Temple of the Sun, at the site's highest point, was built upon a natural energy node, a place where the mountain's resonance was strongest. During solstice sunrise, the light passes through a small window and ignites the chamber in gold. And for a few minutes, it feels as though the entire mountain is breathing light. Half a world away, in the plains of Wiltshire, the stones of Stonehenge rise against the horizon, massive and deliberate. Modern instruments have detected unusual magnetic patterns there, along with faint infrasound vibrations that fall below the threshold of human hearing. When the wind passes through the circle at certain angles, it creates tones that can be felt in the chest rather than heard by the ear. Ancient builders may not have understood magnetism as we do, but they recognized its feeling, the way the earth seemed to sing at certain points. The circle, they believed, amplified that song. To stand at its center is to be inside an ancient frequency, one that seems to hum softly in tune with the pulse of the world. In Egypt, near the Temple of Abydos, a similar phenomenon occurs. Beneath the sands lie natural deposits of quartzite and basalt, materials known for their conductivity. The Great Osirian, a subterranean temple linked to the cult of resurrection, was built directly over these veins. Inside, the temperature remains constant, the acoustics deep and resonant. When sound is made, a low chant, even a breath, the walls seem to answer with a slow, lingering vibration. Researchers who have measured electromagnetic fields in the chamber report fluctuations that differ from the surrounding desert. Some believe the temple was designed to focus and harness the Earth's energy, a living monument not just to the gods, but to the rhythm of the land itself. There is a story among the shamans of the Andes that the ancients could speak to the mountains, not in words, but through stillness. listening for the heartbeat that moves beneath stone and soil. They say the mountains choose who can hear them, and that those who build in alignment with their energy become part of the mountain's breath. In this belief lies a quiet truth, that the earth is not inert matter, but living presence. The temples we marvel at were not constructed atop the land, but with it, their foundations merging into the hidden architecture of the planet's pulse. Some modern researchers have tried to quantify these sensations. Sensitive instruments show small but measurable variations in electromagnetic activity at many ancient sites. Others detect infrasound waves that can influence the brain, altering perception and inducing calm, awe, or even trance. Yet to reduce it to data feels incomplete. The ancients did not speak of Hertz or Tesla. They spoke of spirits, of breath, of divine current. Their words were poetic, not technical, but perhaps closer to truth. Where we measure, they felt. Where we seek to prove, they sought to participate. Their temples were not experiments, but conversations with the unseen. One of the most intriguing examples lies beneath the island of Malta, at the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, a subterranean temple over 5,000 years old. Its chambers were carved with such precision that a low male voice chanting within the main hall resonates at exactly 110 Hz. Modern acousticians have found that this frequency affects the human brain's prefrontal cortex, altering mood and awareness. Those who have entered describe feeling weightless, as though floating in sound. The builders could not have known modern acoustics, yet they designed a space that interacts with consciousness itself. The temple, it seems, was not merely for ritual, it was a tool for transformation. From the deserts of Egypt to the forests of Japan, from Celtic circles to Mayan pyramids, stories persist of lights, sensations, and voices at sacred sites. Scientists call them anomalies. Pilgrims call them blessings. Maybe they are both. The ancients, attuned to rhythm and silence, sense the same energy that still flows today, though we have forgotten how to listen. When we step into these places and feel something stir, a tingling in the spine, a sudden calm, it may not be imagination. It may be recognition, a quiet memory rising from the part of us that once knew how to converse with the living earth. The energy that moves through these temples is the same that moves through every living thing. It is the hum that connects stone to star, heartbeat to heartbeat. The ancients built to honor it. We stand in awe of what they left behind. Their wisdom whispers through the vibrations still felt in the ground beneath our feet. The ruins hum softly in the wind, the air trembling with the echoes of creation. Perhaps what we call mystery is simply harmony, the earth remembering its own sacred song and inviting us, once again, to listen. The story of human discovery has always been written not only with hands and shovels, but also with imagination, the kind that peers through darkness and senses what the eye cannot yet see. For centuries, explorers relied on instinct, myth, and chance to uncover ancient ruins. But in recent decades, our gaze has extended beyond the horizon, beyond even the atmosphere. The search for forgotten temples and buried civilizations has moved into a new realm, one illuminated not by torches, but by satellites and algorithms. What was once guided by superstition is now shaped by light waves, heat maps, and data from space. And yet, even with all our modern instruments, what we find still feels mystical. The line between science and wonder grows thinner with every discovery. In the dense jungles of Guatemala, for example, where thick vegetation once concealed the remains of the Maya, new eyes in the sky changed everything. Using LiDAR, light detection, and ranging technology, archaeologists scanned the jungle canopy and revealed what the human eye had missed for centuries. Thousands of structures, temples, causeways, and fortifications sprawling across the landscape. Whole cities emerged, invisible from the ground, but clear as bone beneath the green skin of the forest. What had once seemed like isolated ruins were now revealed to be parts of vast networks. Thriving civilizations connected by roads that had been hidden beneath roots and vines for over 1,000 years. The jungle had been both protector and shroud, preserving these silent cities until the light returned to them through beams of technology. In Egypt, where the desert hides layers upon layers of human history, satellite imaging has become a form of modern divination. By detecting subtle differences in soil density, thermal signatures, and patterns invisible to the naked eye, researchers have located entire temple complexes and burial grounds buried deep beneath the sand. One such discovery came near Saqqara, where high-resolution images revealed faint geometric patterns, shapes that turned out to be the outlines of tombs, temples, and pyramids lost to time. What was once myth and speculation now stands mapped in infrared light. The desert's veil has not been lifted entirely, but it has been thinned, and through its shifting sands, the past begins to glow faintly once more. The sea, too, has yielded its secrets to these new tools. Beneath the waters off the coasts of India, Japan, and Greece, sonar and 3D mapping have revealed structures thought to be natural formations, but which, upon closer inspection, bear the mark of human design. Off the coast of Yonaguni in Japan, a massive stepped structure lies beneath the waves, its terraces and platforms eerily geometric. Some claim it to be a natural phenomenon shaped by current and erosion. Others insist it is the remains of an ancient civilization lost to rising seas. The debate continues, suspended between geology and myth. But the image remains haunting, a city beneath the water, the sea itself a kind of liquid sky, reflecting what was once built in devotion to the heavens above. As technology grows more refined, we're discovering not only where ancient people built, but why. Artificial intelligence now analyzes temple alignments and ancient city grids, uncovering patterns that point toward a shared language of the stars. Across continents, civilizations separated by oceans seem to orient their sacred sites to the same celestial events: solstices, equinoxes, and the rising of particular stars. These alignments were not random. They were intentional acts of cosmic correspondence, a way of synchronizing Earth with heaven. Modern data processing has revealed these patterns on scales too vast for ancient eyes to have measured, suggesting a unity of vision that transcended geography. It is as though the builders of the world's first temples all listened to the same music, and each constructed their monument as a note in the planet's song. Even the subterranean world has begun to yield its hidden structures through non-invasive methods. Ground-penetrating radar, electrical resistivity mapping, and seismic imaging have allowed archaeologists to see beneath the surface without disturbing the soil. In the shadow of the Great Pyramid of Giza, these techniques revealed a vast network of tunnels and voids, some of which remain unexplored. In Peru, they uncovered buried passageways beneath the temple of Chavindahuantar, suggesting that the ancient priests who once conducted rituals there used sound, darkness, and confined space to alter consciousness, a sensory technology of their own. Modern instruments illuminate their designs, but their purpose, the mystery of their intention, remains beyond full comprehension. The data gives us form, but not soul. This new era of discovery has also transformed how we preserve the past. Through digital reconstruction, archaeologists and artists breathe new life into ruins, rebuilding them virtually, stone by stone. In the soft glow of computer screens, long-collapsed temples rise again. Their walls regain color, their ceilings reappear, their altars flicker once more with imagined firelight. The result is not simply historical restoration, but resurrection, a digital afterlife for the sacred. Viewers can walk through places that no longer exist, experiencing them not as ruins, but as they once were, vibrant, alive, echoing with the prayers of those who came before. It is a quiet miracle of technology, one that allows memory to become experience again. Yet, for all these advances, the heart of discovery remains the same. Even as satellites and sensors map the planet's every contour, the most profound moments still happen when a human hand brushes dust from stone, when a faint carving emerges beneath centuries of darkness, when the air of a long-sealed chamber touches the face of the living. Technology guides us to the threshold, but reverence crosses it. The machines can measure, record, and analyze, but they cannot feel the weight of silence, the trembling awe that arises when the ancient and the present meet. That moment still belongs to us, fragile and eternal. There is a strange poetry in how the most modern tools are now revealing the most ancient truths. The more we illuminate, the deeper the shadows seem to grow. Each discovery brings both clarity and question. Each answer opens a door to another mystery. It is as if the earth, aware of our gaze, chooses what to reveal and what to keep hidden. Some secrets, perhaps, are meant only to be sensed, not solved. As we look upon glowing satellite maps and digital reconstructions of temples long gone, we may realize that what we are truly mapping is our own longing, the human desire to remember, to connect, to touch the infinite. And so, the search continues, above and below, in data and in dreams. The light of science shines brighter than ever, but the mysteries it uncovers are no less profound. The earth remains vast, layered, and alive, its stories folded in a time like veins of gold. We scan the jungles, the deserts, the oceans, and the skies, yet what we truly seek lies deeper still, in the quiet between discovery and wonder, where the ancient world still breathes through circuits of light and pulse of memory, whispering softly that the greatest temple has always been the world itself. Among the broken columns, moss-covered stones, and sun-dappled courtyards of ancient ruins, one begins to sense the invisible threads that tie these places together. Across continents and millennia, humanity has returned to the same eternal questions. Who are we? Where do we come from? And what connects us to the vastness above and below? In these questions, temples, tombs, and forgotten sanctuaries serve as answers and riddles. Their walls tell us that life is both fleeting and eternal, that our hands shape stone, but the sky and the earth shape us. There is a quiet poetry in realizing that while civilizations rise and fall, the impulses that drove them, the desire for connection, understanding, and transcendence, remain constant. Every ruin, no matter how small or remote, is a whisper from that enduring human spirit. In the mountains of Peru, the Inca built terraces and temples not just to sustain agriculture, but to honor the mountain spirits they called apis. Each stone was carefully placed to respond to the contours of a land, to withstand centuries of earthquakes, and to align with the solstices and equinoxes. Yet beyond the practical and celestial, these constructions created a rhythm between human and earth, a dialogue that still resonates today. Visitors to these ruins often remark on a sense of balance, a feeling of being quietly held in place by the mountains themselves. It is a reminder that the architecture of the ancients was never merely functional. It was an extension of a worldview in which humans were participants in a living, breathing cosmos. Farther north, in the forests of Cambodia, Angkor Wat rises like a poem frozen in stone. Its vast galleries, intricate bas-reliefs, and reflecting pools were designed to mirror both the heavens and the land. Each image tells a story of gods walking among humans, of kings seeking divine legitimacy, of rituals that unfolded in perfect synchrony with the movements of the sun and moon. Over centuries, the jungle claimed much of the city, wrapping its roots around towers and walls. Yet in that quiet reclamation, it created a new kind of harmony, human creation blending with nature's persistence. The ruins speak, quietly but insistently, of the cyclical nature of life, rise, decay, and rebirth. In the deserts of Egypt, temples like those at Karnak and Luxor remind us that even in the harshest landscapes, humans sought connection with the divine. The stones of these temples were selected and carved with extraordinary precision, aligned to capture light and shadow in sacred patterns. Rituals performed within these walls echoed in sanctuaries below, carried by chambers designed to amplify sound and spirit alike. Every corner of these temples seems imbued with intention, a testimony to the belief that the mortal and divine were intertwined. And even when empires fell and the sands slowly reclaimed what had once been vibrant with life, the temples remained silent, monumental reminders of devotion and aspiration. Beneath the earth, in catacombs, caves, and hidden passageways, this pattern continues. From the labyrinthine tunnels beneath Rome to the cenotes of the Maya, humans have long sought to descend, to connect with hidden realms, and to touch the unseen. These spaces are not merely utilitarian. They're liminal, thresholds between worlds, between the known and the unknown, between life and afterlife. The ancients understood that some truths are felt rather than spoken, glimpsed rather than explained. Their subterranean sanctuaries remind us that mystery is not a void to be filled, but a space to inhabit, a place where reverence can be cultivated in silence. In these temples, above ground and below, one notices a recurring harmony. Architecture, astronomy, and art converge, forming a language of experience. Stone, earth, water, and light become instruments of perception, guiding the human spirit toward awe, reflection, and transcendence. It is as if the ancients knew intuitively what modern science is only beginning to quantify. The human consciousness is attuned to pattern, resonance, and rhythm. Whether through the hum of subterranean chambers, the alignment of pyramids with stars, or the reflection of temples and still pools, these sacred spaces engage us in ways that are both physical and psychological, grounding us even as they lift us toward the infinite. Even in ruins long abandoned, energy persists. Some researchers have noted subtle electromagnetic anomalies at ancient sites, while others report inexplicable feelings of calm, clarity, or awe among visitors. Perhaps the builders intended this, or perhaps it is the residue of centuries of devotion. Either way, these subtle currents remind us that the sacred is not always visible, that presence can linger where human activity has passed. The stones themselves, shaped by intention and time, seem to remember the rhythm of the hands that placed them and the hearts that revered them. Across the globe, the patterns repeat. Civilizations that never met share an understanding of proportion, harmony, and orientation. Temples are oriented to the sun, moon, or particular stars. Interiors are designed for sound and vibration. Subterranean spaces descend into shadow to illuminate spiritual truths. Whether in the Andes, the Ganges, the Nile, or the Mediterranean, the message is the same. Humans seek connection to something greater, a continuity that stretches beyond individual life, beyond culture, beyond time. And in their pursuit, they left behind tangible evidence of their inner worlds, spaces that still speak to the human need for wonder, reflection, and communion with forces unseen. Walking through these ruins today, one cannot help but sense the continuum of human aspiration. The ancients are long gone, yet their desires echo in stone, in shadow, and in light. The temples are not simply historical artifacts. They are mirrors of consciousness, reflections of the human longing to bridge mortality with eternity. In quiet moments, standing amid the fallen pillars or tracing a weathered carving, one can feel that same impulse, the need to build, to honor, to reach beyond oneself. Every ruin, whether grand or humble, is part of a network of memory, connecting us to countless generations who sought to touch the eternal. In the end, the secret buried in these ruins is not a treasure, nor a text, nor even a single revelation. It is the pattern itself, a pattern of seeking, of striving, of listening to both earth and sky. The ancients remind us that the sacred is inseparable from the mundane, that the divine is woven into the act of creation, and that even in decay, the echo of intention survives. And as we walk through the remnants of temples, through forgotten corridors and sunlit courtyards, we become participants in that enduring rhythm, joining the unbroken chain of human wonder that has, for millennia, sought to know the world and the mysteries that lie within it. The deeper we delve into the ruins of ancient temples, the more we realize that history is not merely a record of what happened, but a living tapestry of experience, memory, and intention. In the quiet of these forgotten sanctuaries, time folds in on itself. The dust on the floors, the wear of stone steps, and the faded frescoes are not just signs of age. They are echoes of countless human lives, prayers, and rituals that once filled the spaces with purpose and meaning. Each ruin carries the layered whispers of those who built it, worshipped within it, and eventually abandoned it. And in the stillness, one begins to understand that these echoes are not gone. They linger, subtle and persistent, like a melody we cannot quite remember but feel in our bones. Across the world, from the sun-drenched deserts of Egypt to the misty highlands of Peru, there is a shared reverence in the way civilizations approached the sacred. They sought harmony, not domination. The orientation of temples, the proportion of columns, the careful carving of stone, and even the placement of small shrines were never arbitrary. They reflected an understanding of cycles, the sun and moon, the tides, the seasons, and the movement of the stars. These patterns reveal a universal human impulse to align earthly life with cosmic rhythm, to find order and beauty in a vast and often unpredictable universe. In these ruins, that impulse remains visible, a silent testament to humanity's enduring search for meaning. It is in the subtle details that the profound mysteries lie. The worn steps of Angkor Wat, smoothed by centuries of pilgrims, still seem to guide one upward, toward the sky and away from the mundane. The corridors of Göbekli Tepe, carved before the dawn of agriculture, still resonate with the rhythm of ritual, hinting at ceremonies whose purpose may forever elude us. Even sunken cities like Heraclean whisper through coral and silt, suggesting that human devotion can survive even in silence, submerged beneath the weight of water and centuries. Each detail is a fragment of a larger story, a piece of the puzzle that connects past and present in ways that are felt as much as understood. These ruins also remind us of the fragility of human endeavor. Civilizations that built grand temples, cities, and monuments eventually vanished, leaving their creations to be claimed by nature or time. The earth reclaims, but it also preserves. Temples buried beneath sand, soil, or sea are simultaneously erased and protected, their secrets held in quiet anticipation. To witness a buried sanctuary revealed, whether through excavation, sonar, or LiDAR, is to experience the tension between loss and discovery, the thrill of seeing what has waited for millennia, and the humbling reminder that even the mightiest human achievements are temporary in the face of nature's passage. Yet these spaces do more than teach about mortality. They illuminate resilience. Every carved stone, every restored column, every reconstructed temple is a testament to human aspiration and ingenuity. The builders faced the elements, limitations of tools, and the passage of generations, yet they created forms that endure. And in enduring, they connect us to them, not only through history or archaeology, but through a more subtle thread, the shared human experience of curiosity, devotion, and reverence. To walk among these ruins is to sense that connection tangibly, as if the energy of centuries past is still present, softly guiding, reminding, and teaching. There's also a rhythm to how the ruins communicate with us. In some temples, sunlight passes through windows or doorways only at specific times of year, illuminating altars or carvings in ways that are fleeting yet perfect. In others, sound carries through hidden chambers, transforming human voice into something larger than the speaker. Even the patterns of wear, erosion, and vegetation act as markers, subtly shaping the way we perceive space. These are the invisible languages of the ancients, methods of storytelling that transcend words, instructions for aligning mind, body, and spirit. They demand patience, observation, and a willingness to engage with the unknown. The mystery of these sites is not just in what they reveal, but in what remains hidden. So many chambers remain unexplored, So many corridors yet to be excavated, so many inscriptions still undeciphered. Each new discovery answers some questions, but raises others, keeping curiosity alive. And in that ongoing dialogue between human effort and the passage of time, we find one of the quietest lessons of all, that knowledge is never complete, that wonder persists, and that the pursuit of understanding is as sacred as any temple itself. Finally, the ruins teach a profound lesson about perspective. Standing in a sunlit courtyard of a temple long abandoned, or on a cliff above a forgotten city, one feels simultaneously small and connected. Small in the immensity of history, the cosmos, and the endurance of the earth. Connected in the shared human endeavor to reach beyond ourselves. The temples, tombs, and sanctuaries are not simply monuments to the past. They are mirrors, reflecting our own curiosity, reverence, and longing. They remind us that the sacred is not confined to relics or ruins, but exists in the act of seeking, observing, and feeling. In their silence, they speak. In their decay, they teach. In their persistence, they inspire. And so, as night falls across these ancient landscapes and shadows stretch over stones worn smooth by time, the message is clear. History and mystery are inseparable, intertwined in the rhythm of human life. The past is not gone. It waits quietly beneath the earth, beneath the waves, beneath the ruins, ready to be felt by those patient enough to listen. In the hush of twilight, in the gentle weight of stillness, one senses that the temples are not empty. They are alive in memory, in resonance, and in the unbroken human yearning to connect with something greater than ourselves. As the journey through ancient temples and forgotten ruins draws to a close, a deep stillness settles in. These places are more than remnants of stone. They are echoes of devotion, memory, and mystery. The air that lingers among their broken walls carries the breath of those who built them, prayed within them, and vanished into time. Their silence is not emptiness, but presence, a reminder that history is alive beneath our feet. Each ruin holds a quiet lesson. The play of light through a carved doorway, the whisper of wind along fallen pillars, the perfect symmetry between earth and sky. These small details speak of an ancient harmony that endures. They teach us that beauty was once a form of worship, that the sacred lived in balance, and that even as empires fade, intention remains. We realize now that mystery is not something to solve, but something to listen to. The unanswered questions, the hidden chambers, the symbols carved in forgotten languages. These are not barriers to understanding, but invitations to wonder. In their stillness, the ruins become mirrors, reflecting the same human longing we carry today, to connect, to remember, to reach beyond ourselves. As night deepens, the world grows softer. The ancient stones seem to breathe with the rhythm of the earth, calm and eternal. And in that calm, we find comfort. The past is never truly gone. It waits quietly, whispering through sand, forest, and sea. The temples remain, not as relics, but as companions, reminding us that even in silence, meaning endures, and that within the mystery of the ruins, humanity continues to dream.